warm welcome to all of you to the beginning session of this two-day program, where this opening session is just meant to brief you about what is the overall aspect of what do we mean by capacity building. So what are the areas where capacity building is done, and I will be talking about just 2-3 areas just to highlight what it is, but later on we will have an overview quickly in this session on what do we mean by capacity building. Now, capacity building is also required in companies, in profit-making companies. So I just want to highlight the difference between corporate companies and CSO organizations. In corporate companies, there are some very clear metrics to find out whether they are doing well. Right? So they are in the business of making profit, so is their profit well? If they are selling some products and other competitors are also selling products, so what is the market share of this company? Suppose, in this country, the market size for cars is 10 lakh cars per year, and one company sells 5 lakh cars, then we will say market share of that company is very high. It is having 50% market share. So therefore, how is this company doing against the competition? Naturally, if the market shares are high, it means company is doing well. Is the company well diversified? Is it only in one market? Suppose some of these car companies now are facing difficulties as new electric cars are emerging. Some of the older car companies do not know how to make electric cars, mean they are going to struggle. So therefore, instead of that business, are they into several other businesses also? So this is a kind of tracking that somebody will do about a profit-making company. But when it comes to civil society organizations or NGOs, you're not working for profits, you're working for social impact. You're working for well-being of people, whatever area. It may be health, it may be protection, it may be rights, right? We are looking for development, right? All of that, we are looking only for well-being of people. We are looking only for people to start owning things. So you want people to start entrepreneurship. You want people to become successful. You are not looking to make your organization big. TrexStep has made several other organizations big. TrexStep remains the same. So definitely every organization that is a CSO is looking to help other people to become richer, other people to gain better status in life. And then when it comes to rights, we are helping people to raise their voices. Right? You want people to fight for their justice, to fight for some rights that is there. You are lending support to those people. Finally, you're looking at helping the community to develop itself. It might be water, it might be sanitation, it might be health. So you're working in all those areas also to help society and community to translate itself and to transform itself. So putting metrics for this and deciding when you're doing well or how you're doing well, it is a little difficult, but we are going to see how then does some donor of yours, you're asking for some money, and then what is it that those donors are looking for in your organization? And that precisely will become areas where our capacity has to be strong. Wherever you think the government is going to fund you, and what is the government looking from your organization to say, okay, I trust this organization. I think if we extend financial support to this organization, they are going to deliver. So what are the areas in which somebody from outside is going to look at you will be the areas where you are going to develop yourself and improve yourself and present yourself in such a way that they must start believing, okay, this is a well-run organization. This is a very efficient organization. It's a very transparent organization. It's an organization that will deliver whatever it is expected of them. Typically, therefore, you're in areas like this. Sometimes you're in creating awareness. Even in times of this COVID, many of our NGOs, CSOs were involved in talking about just maintaining social distancing and wearing masks. Messages had to go across the country, and there were several CSO organizations that were working for creating awareness of even these simple things. Sometimes it's also about, let's say, not employing child labor in factories and fighting for rights of women. All of that is happening, protecting human rights, rehabilitating people who have been displaced in some projects. Maybe it be tribal employees, or it can be people because of development, they had to move elsewhere. Whenever a crisis came, whenever we had our tsunamis or our hurricanes or our floods, right, I think the swiftest response came from NGOs only. Right, that NGOs were the first to reach these places and start helping people. Typically, you also work in the environment area. In fact, our current project on Genie is also about looking at how to keep the environment safe and looking to involve women in that. So, why does government prefer CSOs? Why is it that the corporate or the government itself cannot do all of this? Comes from that the CSO is a very small organization and you can experiment whatever ideas you have very quickly. There is no restraint or block from you. If you have an idea, you can quickly go ahead and see how to implement that idea. That idea can be flexible. In one plot in Tamil Nadu, you can execute it in one fashion. In another state or within Tamil Nadu itself, in one district, you can execute it in one way. In another district, you can adopt another approach. You are not bound by rules and procedures with other government departments might have, or policies that a company might have, which prevents it from doing effectively. People acknowledge your service. Whether other institutions acknowledge your service or not, the public acknowledges your service. So therefore, you do enjoy a good rapport wherever you have done good service. You have a good trust of the people you have earned over the years, and that makes it easier for you to bring about whatever transformation or your organization had as its objective. You are able to communicate at all levels also. Wherever you go, I'm sure people or government or higher authorities are treating you with respect only because they see your organization. Although Mr. Jawar was saying there is a negative view of NGOs as profit-making organizations not staying true to their objective. I think very largely, my experience has always been that I've seen a lot of very genuine NGOs who are really doing good things in society, and it's just like my profession. If I go and introduce myself as a teacher anywhere outside, people treat me with respect. And I think the same way is for all of you also. If you say you're from an NGO, I'm sure people are willing to listen to us because they do know that you are not there in business for making profits. You are there to bring some societal change, and that you are doing selflessly also. You have sacrificed other opportunities for development and have decided that you are going to invest your time and efforts in working for the good of other people. So you are able to therefore communicate with all people. I was many years ago, I spoke at a forum to talk about management of politics. Right? So in that forum, I said a political party can be strong only based on its ideology. Right? That people must join the party and people will, the leader is not really important. What is important is the ideology. Right? And same way here, I think if your NGO's ideology or the purpose or your mission or vision is so good and so, transparent about what is the benefit other people are going to get for it, you will have no problem in trying to recruit experts to help you. In fact, there are a lot of forums where, many industry people, many professionals are willing to spend time for free with professionals because they feel that some part of their professional skills can be availed free of service because you're an NGO. So there are many forums and many groups now that are willing to spend time with civil society organizations on a very planned basis, but they are willing to do that for free because they realize that you are doing much more something useful than what the companies are doing. And therefore, you will also be able to recruit volunteers. You will also be able to get very motivated staff to come and work for you. In fact, just like Jawahar sir said, I was there at that meeting where all of them, where you were not complaining about, your own situation, but you were just saying that the pandemic was preventing us from helping people. Person after person was only complaining about that. And we felt very, very, happy to hear how, you're really invested in helping people. Right? Your concern was not for your organization, but your concern was for what about our beneficiaries? We are not able to talk to them. We are not able to deliver something to them. Finally, because your NGOs, there are less restrictions from the government, right? So you might say that, restrictions are now higher and that's why there are problems, right? Anyway, I had this feeling that since this pandemic has demonstrated to the government the usefulness of NGOs and how many of you have done well, some kind of a policy change in the mindset of the government can happen. Let's be positive about it. Let's hope that your contribution is rightfully recognized, and some of the representations are being made at the national level to actually remove some of these funding issues, some of these restrictions that have been put. Lots of appeals are going on, and the one positive thing I saw was government has not refused it outright. They have said we'll reconsider. So they have not said no. So till such time, I think we can keep our fingers crossed and hope that better sense will prevail and government will go ahead. So I want to start with what do we mean by capacity building. We will just see it as a set of activities or decisions that strengthen the organization operations and enables it to achieve its mission. So each one of you will have some kind of a vision. That vision will get translated into a mission statement for your organization. And capacity building is all about trying to find out how best we can achieve that. How can we strengthen ourselves? Which are the areas we are going to see that? In fact, that pamphlet that ma'am has made out has put out all those areas there. I'm using that same chart to see which are the areas we are going to look at. Now, CSOs definitely seem to have some kind of a life cycle. You are doing a lot of good things. Then there is no reason for your institution to actually slow down. But in many cases, unfortunately, we are seeing there is this kind of a life cycle for an organization. It not only for CSOs, it is also there for, let's say, profit-making companies also. But in the case of profit-making companies, stagnancy can happen, decline can happen because a newer technology comes in, because a newer competitor comes in and sells the product at a cheaper price. So therefore, this company is not able to sell, so their revenues can dip. But CSOs are not in the revenue generation business. CSOs are not in the profit generation business. Why does the CSO's activity become a decline? So we start with saying we are starting with one particular program, we focus on it, we are delivering something on it. Then slowly we start growing our infrastructure also. So we add more people, we buy computers, we add more buildings and rooms to our, let's say, institution. The institution becomes a little larger. As it said, as like Mr. Jawar said, right, we will develop capacity to move from, let's say, 1 crore to 10 crore, right? But then are we going to move to 50 crore to 100 crore? I've given a case study a little later. Tomorrow we'll be discussing that, which will actually show you that scaling up or becoming bigger and bigger need not be the outlook of a CSO, right? Need not be, right? So a CSO need not be looked in terms of, right, how much of money you're managing every year, how much of projects have you executed every year. Number of projects must always be increasing, or the money that you're being funded must always be increasing. Then only you gain respect. Then only you're growing. Need not be so. As long as we are doing something good and we are doing something small, and that money stream for doing that is constantly being made available to you, and you're able to run your CSO. Profit should also be there. So we will call it as, let's say, we'll not use the word profit, but say excess of income over expenditure should be there for the CSO also. Right? We will not say we are in the business of making losses for ourselves. That way you cannot actually exist and sustain. So to sustain our organization, some excesses of revenue over expenditure should be there. Right? You will be keeping it in reserve. You will be making it to invest in some other development activity for your own organization. What generally the outside world sees is that there must not be any personal use of that excess funds by the leaders of the organization. That is all they are worried about. Right? As long as we are sincere in what we are doing, I think at this stage, you kind of stop, and then there is one project or one social area where you identified you were doing that well in your local community. Then let's suppose that that problem ceases to be important. You have done well. You have done so good that actually you have put all the children in that locality, let's say, into education. You are looking at getting school dropouts to be prevented in an area. you worked hard, you campaigned, you got children to join, and then the number of school dropouts in the district where you're working goes down, right? People are all studying because you have done extremely good work. Then comes, what do I do next, right? And then during that period, right, maybe you sort of have to, that's why I said renew yourself. Every point where, you get stuck with what you're doing, and after that, you see no progress in the same area where you've been working, maybe you'll have to look for new directions. Maybe you'll have to look for new projects, but then you must not move away from your fundamental mission. Fundamentally, what you started your organization for, and that's why little later our colleagues will come, they will say that that mission statement has to be very broad. You cannot say it very fixedly is for preventing school dropouts. If you say that, then you're limiting what your organization is doing. Right? After that, as I said, if you say, or instead of saying school dropouts, if you say your organization is for improving the development of children rather than talking about school dropout, you can go into several areas related to child development and still stay within your mission statement. But if you put your mission statement as we want to, prevent the number of school dropouts in Tiruchirappalli district or Tanjavur district, right, and then start an NGO based on that, then that is too specific. Your mission statement has to be broad enough to accommodate newer projects in the future and still give outside experts the feeling that you're not gone away from your mission. You're still focused on your mission only. But you're starting some other activity to achieve that mission. That is what is happening at this stage. Otherwise, you start getting stagnant if you don't, renew yourself. Your, NGO goes down. Then you start taking up some other projects which is not relevant to your mission. When that happens, that is when you don't have the capacity. You have all along been doing something. Because the funds for that or that area has been complete or done by you, you're not seeing further scope there, you take a new area. And then you take a new area and find that you're lacking several things. It can be human resources, it can be more financial resources are required, it can be more assistance from the government is required, it can be more partnerships are required with other people to execute this new project. And we have not built capacity. So that is where we are looking at how to change all this, how to ensure that we don't go beyond this. We must always be at that level and not go down. In organizations, they will talk about this curve keeping on going up. So they'll show one time is time on one axis and sales on the other axis. And over every year, they will start plotting that the organization sale must keep on going up. Right? But we are not in sales. We are not in revenue for ourselves. We are in the business of helping society. So I don't see NSOs as having to, grow every year in terms of, doing more and more activity, bringing in more and more revenue. But are we stable? Are we strong in our finances to sustain over the next 10 years, 20 years, whatever, 5 years, let's say, let's not even say 15 and 20 years. Next 5 years, what is going to be our plan to stay comfortable and not be, in a position to be searching around for funds to run our organization. So if you look at what is capacity then, therefore combined influence of an organization ability to govern and to manage itself, to develop assets and resources and have the right community linkages, deliver value-added services, all addressing, again, we will have to say the mission only. So therefore, there are several areas in which capacity building can happen. First of it will be about the vision and mission itself. So that's why in the afternoon, Dr. P.R. Subramaniam will be coming here. He will start with vision, mission only. Because that's the start for an organization and some kind of a self-look there. So we will be looking at some development activity, can be looking at strategies. Some of it can be looking at developing the organization skills. It can be organization structure. It can be your infrastructure, it can be human resources. In all these areas, improvements can be done. We are looking at those only. So how does capacity building happen? One can be, you have some kind of a professional training program done for the members of the board, leaders or your staff. Opportunities for peer learning, which means learning from each other. And I think that's one of the objectives of this program. I would kindly advise you to mingle freely and talk to all the other participants here over these 2 days and try and find out what they are doing, learn from them, whether they face the same problems you have, or if they have faced such a problem, how they have solved it, or if they are doing something new, can we replicate that in our own town or in our own district? One thing we must agree is that NGOs don't compete with each other. We are not competing, right? We are only wanting to cooperate to do well for society. So we are not, alarmed about, somebody taking our ideas and doing good in their town. In fact, I'm sure you will all be happy if you shared some idea in some other town that NGO started using that idea and they are also doing well. You have contributed to some kind of ideation. So therefore, this networking and peer learning, very important part of capacity building. So that is being facilitated by TrekStep now. Over the next, let's say, 8 programs or so, if 400 leaders come here and they talk to each other, right, get to know each other, and later on, maintain touch with each other over mail or over phone. And that can be a tremendous support to all of you. This contacts that you have made here and the contacts that you will be making through TrekStep might help other organizations, members who are here, to actually grow, to actually find solutions to their problems. So you can actually re-examine your own plan. You can collaborate with others. As I said, you can formalize and collaborate even with other NGOs who are here. And finally, maybe not get new sources, but try and develop new sources for earned income. What kind of opportunities are there? One of the topics of this program will be about fundraising. It will happen a little later, and as faculty, we are going to have academics and subject matter experts coming in. They will tell you what are the ways. In fact, we will take your inputs later, find out if you need some assistance on, let's say, you want a topic like, project report preparation for asking a grant or something. Right? We can take even a session on that. How should I write out a report to ask for a donation? What kind of a report should be filled in? We can go into such detail also if you want. Right? So there are 3 levels in which capacity building can happen. One, we will say, is at the individual level, where we'll say we want to kind of import knowledge to people, develop the skills of people, and then participate in knowledge sharing, in ownership and all that. Second one, it can happen at the institutional level, where we are looking at the overall organization. We are not looking at people working in the organization. We are looking at the overall organization and its willingness to adapt and change. Finally, we can even look at, are our policies correct? Are our policies correct? And do we need to actually change our vision, mission? Do we actually need to change our policies in the organization? And what way can we interact with the external environment? Benefits of capacity building is that you will become a little more efficient. Efficiency, effectiveness. Effectiveness means doing the right things. Efficiency means doing things right. And which means, in efficiency, when you're saying your organization is efficient, it means you're not wasting your organization's resources. In fact, you're losing less of your organized resources and achieving more in the society. So are you able to not waste resources and bring about the desired project, project parameters that are expected to be achieved? Are you able to do all of that in the projects you're executing without spending too much money? I'm not even going to say without spending too much money. Let's also say without spending too much time, without spending too much of people, without spending too much of effort, right? You're able to easily achieve your organization's targets or what you want to execute, then we'll say you're being efficient, right? Then your capacity to do services increases. You have to develop collaborations with other organizations and ensure you bring about some need. Then because you are good, you are helping society actually, right? Your benefit is not restricted to yourself. You are helping people whom you are serving through your program effectiveness. Suppose you wanted to protect women's rights and then your campaign brought about that, then you have done something good for society also. It doesn't stop with you being good. You also helped society. You have delivered more effective program. All what your donors wanted at outcomes, you also brought it about. So your donors are happy. Then your donors may come back and donate more to you. So benefits of building capacity will be increased revenues for your organization. more people will be willing to donate to you, more people will be willing to do volunteer work with you, might want to come and say, I'll also like to work. You'll have more contributions coming in. First three will mean that you can do more good work, you can improve productivity, and all of that again goes here, right? So it's a kind of a cycle. Once you start doing well, because you're doing well, more money comes in, and then with your more money, you're doing more good work, so more money comes in. The challenge is to get into this cycle. Once you get into the cycle of doing a lot of good work ultimately and improving the productivity of organization, everything else becomes easy, right? So then you might ask me, this is something that can happen over an organization lifetime. It should happen naturally. As organizations remain, they must grow bigger, they must grow better. Why is it not happening? Why is it you're saying, there is a plateau, maturity, and then there is a decline, should not happen? So why is it? Sometimes these are the reasons. One, projects are the priority. You keep concentrating on your project and you want to finish your project only, right? You don't know when is your next project coming. You don't know what are the people doing. Constantly you're moving from starting one project, finishing one project, and by the time, right, you're more focused on the project than your entire organization. There's lack of understanding of which are the areas where you need to improve for yourself. You don't spend time on that. These 2 days and many days across from now, as you interact with TrekStep over this program, I think it will give you a chance to reflect on where are you, requiring some more support, what are your challenges, where do you think you need to improve most, and either TrekStep or EU is not looking at you like a scorecard. We are not willing to, judge you, right? You are here to help yourselves. You are here to interact with each other and, do some kind of introspection and say, I think it is better if we do more in this area. This is where I think our organization needs to improve upon. And over this 4 programs that we do, I think in the next program, you'll be online with us over these 4 programs, right? What we would like you to look at is to keep looking at the content, what we are delivering to you, and identifying the area where you think, yeah, this is where I will concentrate on. We are going to show 7 areas here. Many authors, many researchers are showing 3, 5, 7, 9, everything. I have taken some 7 areas where, capacity building can be done. It need not be that you must do in all 7 areas. You must concentrate on one area where you think you are weak, or one area where you think if you become strong, benefit to you is much more, right? If I improve my IT infrastructure, I think I can, do my projects much faster. Means then IT infrastructure is your capacity building priority. If I build a website and able to showcase how well I am doing to the world, you can get donations through that website itself, right? You can just have donate here, and then, somebody will put their credit card number or do a net banking and put money into your account. How? Your website is clearly communicating to the whole world what good you are doing, right? And maybe you might think that's an area, right? My website is not very good enough. My website is not showcasing. Mr. Jawar was talking about how important it is to tell how you're doing well to the rest of the world. You're doing well, but does the world know you're doing well? Does the world know what is happening? Right? Little later, when we're talking, we will talk about one more point. Finally, what are the other options for raising money? What is the cost that we are actually incurring for capacity building? Sometimes prevents you. You're lucky that organization like TrekStep is now working to provide you those services free of cost. Many a time, this capacity building itself is a part of an exercise by consultants who charge huge money to, because it comes out of somebody else's donations only. And that's why the problem in capacity building is some donors don't want to give money for capacity building also, because they think their money is spent for your organization and not for the beneficiary. That's a bit of a problem. They are not understanding that when you become better, you are able to do better only in society. So that's a small area of discomfort. Donors are not paying because they think that money which you spend for capacity building, your own organization is using it and not spending it outside. So this kind of looking at one project after another project is silo behavior, not one. So somebody looks only at marketing, somebody looks only at finance. Right? We are going to say capacity building is not only about generating more money or becoming financially strong. It's also about becoming very good at execution, becoming very good at using IT, becoming very good at finishing projects on time and reporting well on time to others, having very clear metrics of how you spent the money within your organization. Keep all the reporting requirements very good. Organization reports very well. That's a big strength. You finished your project and your reports are very clear about what you have done, what was the effect of whatever project that was undertaken. Many a time, actually, world over, same problem. This I'm just taken a research study done in the US, asking some CSOs what is their biggest challenge. So you can see networking, volunteers, fundraising, staff development, mission, space and facility improvement, staffing, HR, marketing, IT, board development, funding, and the most important, everybody is saying, is funding only. So world over, every organization seems to say that CSO means funding is our problem, right? And then today also, rightly so, that is also your problem, everybody's problem. The fact is that there is a lot of reduced funding, and on the other side, there is increased need for funding also because, like Mr. Jawar was saying, a lot of requirement in the market that actually needs a lot of support. People at the bottom line actually need a lot of support. But the point I wish to make is that here is an opportunity for all of us to step back and look at our own strengths and weaknesses, trying to find out how we can overcome those weaknesses, how to build on our strengths over the next few months. What can we do to make our strengths become better? How can we erase our weaknesses? So again, when they asked, you have this problem, what would you like for your help? Please describe what would be the most helpful way to meet your organization's capacity building need. There also everybody is saying funding only. Everybody is saying give me money, right? So, but please remember that, I agree that fund management, fundraising, fund availability, all of this is the biggest challenge. But if we go with that funding mindset, we are not looking at what other opportunities are there for us to create, capacity. And therefore, we will say building capacity is an ongoing process. It is just not about funding. It will be about several areas within the organization where ma'am would have sent you some kind of a questionnaire. I think 1 or 2 times she has sent questionnaires asking you to reply about same level, right? What are your problems? Where do you have these as your processes? You have also made some, your own judgments about where you stand on those parameters, right? Maybe you will get 1 or 2 more also in future, but what we are trying to do is try and analyze where help is needed. Beyond funding, right? Funding, of course, universally recognized, right? How do you approach funding? So little later, one of our programs, we will be talking about that. But typically, the areas in capacity building will start with good governance. And that is why some of the opening questions in that last questionnaire, where do you have a board of directors? Are they aware of their responsibilities? How involved are they in your day-to-day operation? So many questions were asked about your leadership, right? Because as leaders, you are the ones who are leading your institution. Then comes, let's say, creativity of your human resource people. What are there? Are you happy with that? This kind of finance is all about earning trust. So are you very transparent? Are you good at reporting systems? Are your policies and procedures very transparent or very strict, let us say, to ensure there is no leakage of money happening during the project? And funders are looking at all of that also closely. It starts with focus and strategy. That's why in this program, we'll be looking at these 2 areas, focus and trust. A little later, we're going to talk about project management. How do you manage projects? How do you execute projects? And what are the skills you need to do that? Office administration also is a part of capacity building. Are you maintaining your records and files, and do your procedures, are they very clear? How are you maintaining that? And that gives the donor again a sense of confidence that you are a very organized system within your organization. People know what they are doing, and people are regulated in what they are doing. So therefore, your organization runs very smoothly. Finally, it comes to fundraising and publicity activity is very important because it raises your profile also in the market. If you have more money under your control, more activities can be done by you. There's nothing like having money that gives security to the organization. Today, some of us can be feeling insecure in saying, where is my money going to come from next? Will we be growing, right? What is going to happen when this project is over? Which is going to be the next project that we are going to do? Where is our next, contribution or money going to come from? These will all be issues. So therefore, of course, in many companies, many CSOs, fundraising and fund management is a big issue. We will take that also separately. So over these 4 programs, what we are charting is that we'll be looking at each one of these areas. A lot of expert professors and experts in the field will be coming here and giving you some kind of a knowledge about what is a good practice in that area. And then you have to judge for yourself, am I doing all this? Right? Where am I in this area? I don't want you to do absolutely the best, but is there room for improvement? Is there somewhere where I think what these people are saying, I'm really not doing now, and you need to be honest about it to yourself. We are not going to ask you, but we want you to evaluate for yourself, right? Where do you need to improve? And then how you need to improve, again, organizations are there to help you. They will be coming back to you and investing their time and resources to see how to help you also in that area. But this program that is spread is primarily looking at you to understand what is capacity building and how to develop it, and identify for yourselves where you need to improve, identify from that, understand what are the expectations the public is having. I mean, when I say public means I'm saying donors and fund givers are having about well-managed CSOs. Once they understand your CSO is well-managed, funding will not be a problem, right? They will say, okay, I'm absolutely certain that this is a very highly credible CSO organization. I'm going to continue funding this organization. So all of that can happen once we develop ourselves. So the capacity builders, therefore, will be foundations or trusts that are willing to give you money, or associations that will come. Government itself is a big funder of all businesses. That is one. Today, there are organizations, as I said, willing to give you management support alone, some of it for free also. There are consultants, there are professionals, they will come in and help you to build capacity. And there are some organizations now who are saying we'll do that for free also, because they are seeing it as their social service organization, that they want to help other CSO organizations. That kind of people working in companies are willing to spend time. Consultants are there, and of course academicians like me, Professor Sriram, Professor Subramaniam, all of them. We are also there in the area to provide you, I would say, knowledge about the area. But the practice on the area, consultants can come in, experts can come in, and it's a very long ongoing process. But I would, as an outcome, be very happy if I see you identifying where you need to improve. So it starts with, as I said, vision, mission, and about your leadership. Starts about then your own resources, what do you have, your financial resources, your IT resources, your human resources, and then your programs. What are you doing? How are you disseminating your program? What kind of public advocacy programs are you doing? Whom are you collaborating with to help your programs to be done? And finally, there is something here called product services. I have put output, I have put outcome, I have put performance, right? So after this is over, we'll have a small discussion very quickly on those words. Typically, I'm looking at 3 kinds of capacity that should be developed in the organization. One is leadership capacity, then looking at financial sustainability, and third I'm looking at is program effectiveness. Leadership, as I said, is very important. Leaders are the ones who create action within the company. They are the ones who actually have the vision for where to take the company forward. They are the ones who actually try to raise resources from the market. So therefore, you're very fortunate that you have good leaders. Your company and organization will do well because of your leaders. 2 strategies are there for building leaders. One is how to improve these existing leaders themselves. So is there some development programs that the leaders can attend so that they can become better? Or can a new strategy be thought of by the leader? We were doing this so long. I think if we partner with that organization, we can do better. So some kind of intervention or strategy can help current leaders to do better. Second one is developing, so you're a very well-established NGO. Second aspect of leadership is to develop new leadership. So succession plan, after me, who is going to run this organization? Can I develop newer, younger leaders within the organization? And that is also the responsibility of current leaders. The current leader must also look at whom do I bring in, and young minds sometimes can be able to carry on the activity. Second aspect of capacity building can be financial sustainability. We are always saying CSOs run into financial difficulties, so they have a vision and mission, then they do have capacity, but somewhere the connect is not happening because of money, because of capital, right? We will acknowledge that if you had more money, I'm sure you will be able to do well, right? But then in this whole program, we are not trying to tell you, where you can get the money from, but this program is focusing on what if you do well by yourself will make money to come to you easily. So if somebody wants to come and do an audit of your organization and then say, okay, if we see all of these parameters, right, we are going to donate to you, right? There are some sites like giveindia.org, let's say, and then you have to register on that site to, get yourself accredited and to get donations there. Now that Give India will ask you so many questions, right? And then how are you going to answer those questions so that Give India or any other organization, right? Today, there are a lot of online platforms where you can actually go on and register yourself, and you can be a part of that website itself. They can go and read about your organization. But that organization itself, to permit you to be there, has some checks and balances. They want some information from you before they allow you to register there. Now, that way, right, what are the things I must be doing in recent times so that somebody outside in the world will see me as a very well-run organization, and because of that, funding opportunities become higher, right? So the problem, I will also agree, comes to the non-profit, that donors are not willing to cover your operation costs, right? There are some donors, in some cases, are saying only 10% of the project donations that I make can be spent on your operations. 90% of it must go to beneficiaries only. And that puts a limitation on you. You have huge, you have some debt, you have some working capital requirement, you have some overheads in your office, or you have hired people in your office, all of those salaries, electricity bill, whatever, rents, everything, they are not willing to, contribute. They are saying, if I donate money, my entire money must go to beneficiaries. Then how do you sustain? I agree, that's the biggest problem, that some unreasonableness in the eyes of the donor. And many donors today I'm reading in a lot of places where the donor mindset is also changing. They are also realizing that the organization needs to sustain itself, that instead of 10%, if they say 25% can be what the organization can keep. I'm just suggesting that 75% of it can be for, the program execution. 25% should be for this organization to execute that program, right? Then they are being reasonable. But if the entire amount has to go there and you have something that you have established for yourself, where do you generate those funds? And that's a big challenge. So fundraising, we'll talk about it a little later. Lastly, we'll talk about program effectiveness also. We are looking at, evaluating programs, and then this evaluation of the program is equally as important. After you complete the program, you are in a hurry to just submit your reports to the donor and then complete it and get the money. After that, you are moving on to the next project. Now, we are not developing metrics for finding out how effective were you in that program. So what is it you did well? Where did you go wrong? I'm not saying you went wrong. Let's say, what did you do well? And you need to record that, hey, these parts of this, what I did well. So capturing that information is very important, because later on you can go talk to the next donor about this and say, hey, we have done this so well, I think you should appreciate what we have done, and you're able to convey to them that you're a very effective organization, right? So program evaluation is as equal important as program effectiveness. You're very good at executing program, but after executing a program, please spend time in generating lot of measures, right, against which you will write a good report to say, right, my program achieved this, right, and you keep that report also ready. Then you can show to your next donor or to a likely fund giver, right, this is the way we have, performed in the last project. It's just not about creating an output. It is also about creating what we have done here. So CSOs, again, problem is even that involves expenses also. And fund givers are not willing to fund, project evaluation kind of, activities also. Fund giving is not available. So I agree, these are all areas where, some better understanding has to come from society that, okay, this is an organization which has to undertake that activity also. So that activity involves a cost. We must be willing to fund that activity also. Right? So these things will happen. If we don't do that, we are not learning. Sometimes if there is a mistake that happened, that mistake is not recorded, next time we will do the same mistake again. Or if we have done something well, we didn't record that also. Next time somebody will forget, oh, we did that and that made it successful, would be forgotten. So over a period of time, because we didn't evaluate ourselves, we are depriving ourselves of the opportunity of becoming better. Right? So we will become better if we evaluate ourselves well and have a big learning from that. I am very good at doing this area. This area, if we go and do it, last time we met this problem. And when we met that problem, we did this as a solution, it worked out. They call that institutional memory, but it must not remain in memory, it must be recorded. Right? You must record after every project is over, whatever problems you faced, how you solved it, whatever were your successes, and what made it successful. Right? And maybe the successes and what made it successful, if you keep it as a document and you show it to the next donor, see, this is why we are good. You are demonstrating to the next donor why you are good, right? And then that convinces the donor, okay, I am meeting a very professional person here, right? You are also professional. It doesn't mean that only if a company makes money, it is professional. You are also professional because you are doing some good to society and you are also professionals in your field, right? So CSOs must improve programs, achieve better outcomes, and then you're able to inform other people, as I said, about how you are developing. So there is a feedback loop that we can use. It's not very legible here, so we will skip that and we look at saying that whenever you do this evaluation, I've covered all these points, your staff become more knowledgeable, you are documenting it well, and because of that, you can use that for results later. And finally, you are able to integrate that into your organization culture itself. Little later, employees of the organization start behaving that way. Okay, project is over, we have to do this, right? And that becomes part of the system, right? When we finish this, we must have done all of this here. Today, Professor Thiruma, I have joined this institution newly, and this is the first big program I'm doing here. But I had the support of my colleague, Dr. Thirumurugan, who said, sir, all this we already have documented here. So here is an organization that already had its capacity, right? From morning where things have to be arranged, breakfast, hostel rooms, everything, right? One person coordinated because the systems are already here. Otherwise, I'm a new person here, I couldn't have handled anything. So this organization itself has a set of processes. He has already shown me after 2 days, what is the report to be filed here? What are all the things I must be writing? What are all the things he has to be writing? And we need to file that and keep it, because as an educational institution, we also have an accreditation process. There is a body called NAAC that comes to visit us and give us some rating. So we are at B plus now, and we need to go to B++. A means we need to do everything that is in the institution has to be recorded, including this program, right? And show them that what we prepared, what was done, your own feedback about the program, everything, we have a good file. Whatever they did earlier, they already have a file here. So we are, that way, sometimes policies and procedures are very important. So which capacity to develop? I think 4 capacities. Leadership capacity was one, Then this adaptive capacity, this ability to keep changing from day to day is another. Management capacity, how to manage the organization, and finally, technical capacity or executional capacity. When a project is done, how smoothly are we able to execute the project, and that is technical capacity of the organization. So capacity building initiatives can be in the short term, it can be in the long term, it can be training, it can be funds, it can be getting capital, it can be being coached by somebody. There are professional coaches now who would like to come and spend time with you and try and help you. These are different ways in which it can be done. It can be done in a general basis, or it can be done right in a way where it's customized only for your organization. This peer connection is what we are hoping will happen here. It can also be done assessment based. Madam is sending you a lot of documents for you to assess yourselves, right, to see how. Then based on that assessment, interventions will be given. But in that document, whatever you are filling, next time I'm creating another document for them to work on. So I would like you to just fill up and keep it for yourself. We don't even want to see that. But we'd like you to use it and see if you're given yourself 1, how do you move to 3? And then you must say, after 3-4 years, I'll move to 5. Whatever that parameter is saying, I will go up to 5 in this many years. But right now, I am at 1. If you're saying you're at 4, then you tell why you're at 4 also. I'll ask you, why do you feel you're at 4? I'll not want to see that. I'll not want to see that. You keep it. But you be clear of, there are some statements which are telling you at what level you are in each one of those capacities. And you have to mark for yourself, right? This is where I'm standing. This is where I want to improve. And then you can approach us or other organizations or experts based on how to improve in those areas. So typically, leadership improvement, fundraising, empowering people within the organization, and staffing and bringing in good people are a part of capacity building. Organization will have several needs like this. I'm sure you will tell human resource, strategic leadership, technology, operations, legal assistance sometimes to form your association itself, planning facilities, fundraising, communication, training on governance. All of this program design development are typical areas where organizations will be looking at their own capabilities. We will be covering all of that over these programs, at least in one part or the other. So every organization can build capacity. There will be somebody providing you that capacity building help. You need to trust that person and be honest with him and say that this is where I am. I'm really not what you're saying. Right? This is where I'm missing. This area I need to grow a little more, become better a little more, right? What do you think we can do about that? So keep asking questions, you will get answers. Keep asking questions for yourself. Keep asking questions with others whom you meet and say, how do you see us? Where do you think we need to improve? More we ask questions about where we are, more we can get good answers from others. So we must learn from others. We have to value, on the same time, your own organization's culture. Don't go away from that. Whatever your organization is good at, what reputation you have now, please preserve that. You have been in society for this many years because you had certain ethics or principles with which, or some stand on which you are very strongly feeling. Therefore, you started the organization. Please don't move away from that also, right? Society, many changes can happen, problems can come, but I think we must not shift from our mission. Shifting from mission just to solve our current problems is not it's not strategy. It's not strategy. It is just a strategy means long term. You're deciding today what you will be for the next 50 years, and that's why it should be broad. It cannot be very narrow. It has to be very broad and say I will be in this area, but this is what even after my time this organization must be doing. And that kind of very strong, firm foundation should be there. We will agree that capacity building takes a lot of time, right, to reach that 5 on that parameter in everything that ma'am sending to you, or I will send a little later to you, right? It takes time. It's not very easy. Your own efforts are needed, but we will all work on it. So somewhere, some part of it is the head, where your organizational structure can be seen as the head of your organization. Your strategies are your hands. Your organization's identity or culture is your heart. You can't change your heart. Your heart has to remain in the same place. Your connections and linkages, or other people whom you're collaborating, or your legs, and sustainability is the backbone of your organization, right? You need to continue to sustain. I'm not saying making profits, but sustain yourself in the market is the biggest challenge. All of that, I think 3 steps only are there. Many books will again give you many steps. First step is understanding your capability and identifying gaps. That's the first step. 7 areas were given here. Over the next few programs, all the 7 areas are going to be discussed. Each one of the 7 areas, theoretically, as professors, we'll be presenting what is the right area to be doing. You need to find out right where you are, what is the gap, what is being expected. Second, prioritize where you want to invest your time. Need not be in every one of those 7 areas that we saw. It can only be in maybe finance, it can only be in IT. You can decide where you want to prioritize, and finally have a lot of conversations with everybody, your own leadership, your employees, outside consultants, professors, experts. Keep talking to people to find out which capacity building initiative you're going to focus on. And over a period of time, believe me, your conviction and your interest will certainly transform your organization. Ultimately, the capacity development exercise itself is an exercise in change. We have to accept that we must change, right? So why must we change? I think the environment around us is changing, so we have to change. So that's why tomorrow we have given 2 cases, I think. So one of the cases where I am dealing will talk about growth, will talk about change. Why do we give a case? It's just to show you some practical aspect of an organization, and the discussion can happen and learning can happen around that. So tomorrow, 2 case studies by 2 of my colleagues. With this, I'm closing my presentation, and we will have a small interaction after this. Thank you for your patient listening.